It's 2021. I'm floating down a river. I'm in Montana. I can see the beautiful mountain ranges. It's so serene. It looks like that Windows XP wallpaper from the year 2000. I have an ice cold banquet beer in my hand. The Bluetooth speakers cranking some tunes. It's a good day. That was the last day I took my mental health for granted, because that next Monday, I woke up, drank a little coffee, and became disconnected from reality. I stood up. I couldn't work anymore. Started walking around the block until I became more connected. It was almost like a mini psychedelic trip, if you will, but not in a good way. And come to find out, well, a week later, what started happening is I started having more issues beyond that. And it was intrusive thoughts, which is repetitive, compulsive thoughts, out of your control, and sometimes violent. And this happened for the next 12 months. I became disconnected from reality here and there, and having those like intensive intrusive thoughts. And I self-medicated in a way where I ratcheted up my self-care. So that was working on my health and a bunch of different components that we'll talk about in a second. And then two, I talked to a therapist, and that therapist gave me some tools to help manage it for when it came back. I don't know what caused the disconnection from reality, but what I came to find out is that I had a little bit of OCD as a kid. And so I have what's called like a pure OCD, which is basically, instead of external washing your hands like a crazy person OCD, it's more internal. And and so in the end, I don't really have many issues anymore, and I'd never take my mental health for granted, because it really flipped my worldview upside down, because you're basically nobody without mental health. And that's what today's video is about. We're going to talk about some of the things that I've done to help prevent it from coming back, and just the public evidence on mental health.
Yeah, it's amazing how, an ailment or some sort of uh, issues that you're going through, whether they're physical or internal, mentally, can really make you change a lot of things in your life, or they should. If they don't for you, they should. But because I had something similar with my skin, and it was real tough mentally for me, and it made me go through a lot of different life changes mentally and physically, and just changing up habits, the food I ate, the stuff I did. And because once your mental health isn't on homeostasis, then everything else kind of is like a downstream effect from it. Because if you're not functioning well up in here, you're a disaster out here.
Yeah,
Because every little
100%.
thing, every little thing just gets to you.
Yeah, I remember you going through that as well. And and you think about what potentially people are going through with deep, mental issues that have kind of transgressed for decades, and they're in a tough spot, and it's hard to climb out of it. And so we're hoping to share some of, the best evidence-based things you can do to, help, whether it's anxiety, depression, or, intrusive thoughts, or whatever. Or hopefully we can give you some of the best evidence-based things to work on to prevent it. Because I think one of the things that I've shifted my perspective on is that the best way to help your mental health is not to like solve the problem, but prevent it from ever coming upon you. and if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's a guy, Johan Hari, and he talks about uh, he does a lot of research on some of the reasons behind mental illness, especially because it's risen and a lot in the last decade, century. And one of the things he talks about is that a quote he said was that it's not a chemical imbalance problem. It often comes from social, environmental, uh, or psychological disconnection. And so he emphasizes like connection. And the other person who actually complemented that type of research was Viktor Frankl, where his was all around like meaning, and like without meaning, then well, in the absence of meaning, anything can become a mental health issue. But if you have deep meaning, no matter what you're doing, you can you have the courage to suffer through anything, even if it's like high suffering, as he did through the Auschwitz camp.
Mhm.
And so those are the like some of the things, but that's hard to explain to someone who's like in a deep rut. uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I think first, I think one of the biggest steps, especially if you're in a deep rut or going through something and getting help. My wife's a therapist. It seems like you sought out a therapist during that, and it really helped you just frame, not even help you fix it per se, but she helped you handle it better when you're going through it, and then some of the other things helped you prevent it, like you said. And
yeah,
and that was when I was first thinking about it, and it was kind of, I wasn't thinking prevention, but I was thinking in my head, like, what are like the fundamentals that we need in order to like prevent it? But I wasn't thinking of like prevention, but
yeah,
it basically is. But to me, some of the fundamentals, like if you can just to give yourself a fighting chance of none of this, to at least lower the percentages of mental health being an issue for you in the future. I think, and you tell me, Rand, but sleep, getting sleep, significant sleep, at least 7 hours, ideally 8, or at least in bed for 8 hours. And then if you can get close to 8, that's
probably
awesome.
number one. That's
Yeah.
probably number one is sleep.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I kept reading is like your circadian rhythm.
Hmm.
I'll talk about another thing in here, but around circadian rhythm. But if your circadian rhythm is off balance, then your brain is attached to that circadian rhythm, and it's going to be off balance as well, and yeah, it's going to cause inflammation, and you're going to have a lot of issues downstream, and it may not affect you now, but if you keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and that's probably what happened to me at age 5 years ago, at age 34. Things stacked up and stacked up and stacked up, and I didn't really take care of myself in the way I should have took care of myself, or my brain in that matter. And
Hmm.
then it eventually, like, it came to a fruition. And yeah, and then your brain, I one of the things I think was brought up was depression and anxiety are basically just like they're symptoms
Yeah.
of an underlying issue.
Yeah. I've heard this
it's,
as well.
it's like a
It's like
signal.
inflammation of some sort somewhere.
Yeah. What you
Um,
say, you started with sleep, what was
yeah,
next?
sleep, nutrition. So sleep,
Yeah,
nutrition. We talked about this in a different video, but there's so many diseases that come, like scurvy and many
yeah,
many others that we talked about in a different video, but that come from just lack of one nutrient or a couple nutrients. So it's like,
yeah. Rickets we talked about in the
yeah,
vitamin D one.
yeah,
Yeah,
rickets with vitamin D, and then sunlight. I think, you know there's many studies that show people, and you know, in more better weather places are have in better moods, and usually it's like they have high vitamin D counts, right? They
yeah,
have that's a big one for it. But it's just anytime you go through a winter and you start to go into spring, you just get much more positive once you get those sunlight, beautiful days that start to come through. So I think
Yep.
those three, and there's a lot of other things that sunlight, helps morning sunlight helps regulate circadian rhythm, like you were talking about. And
Yep.
then it also increases melatonin at night to help you sleep better, which correlates with the sleep that we were talking about. And
Yep.
then, and we talked about sleep. There's many studies that talk about where if you have like 6 hours or low sleep, or just have a couple nights in a row of bad sleep, to where not only is your irritability up, so that's one, but you have higher consumption of calories. We talked about this in a different video, like 200
Mhm.
plus on average than a normal human. And then I don't know about you, but my discipline's lower,
Yep.
right? I'm less conscientious. I don't stick to my habits
Less
as well.
willpower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, and we could talk about it at nauseum about the negative effects of these, but I think if you can get those right, then you could start to step in and really examine, uh, mentally, kind of the things that are going on in your life, and how to handle them. Kind of what Socrates talked about: a life unexamined isn't worth living. To me, that quote always resonated with me. But once you get through the basics, then you start really examining, why am I always irritated when this person does this, or why am I always have anxiety when I get near this, or get in an interview, or do this, and really start to understand like your psyche and what neuroses you built through age 2 to 9 years old when you're a kid, and the way your parents parented you and stuff. It's like really just
Yeah.
keep digging and digging. But yeah, I know you had some other stuff to go hand in hand with that.
Exercise
Oh
was
yeah,
like
yeah,
exercise was number one most studied, um, highest efficacy intervention you can do to improve mental health.
yeah.
And it
And that
was,
includes walking, right? Just
yeah,
walking.
like what was shown in the trials, and this is like a meta-analysis. I have like two meta-analysis, or actually three meta-analysis of this. It's just well studied. It's movement in general, of course, and it's like 3 to 5 times a week, 30 to 60 minutes a week, right? Like it's not um like you said, it's not like you have to go to a physical gym and work out for 4 hours, and and do a bunch of muscle lifting. It's strength training is good, but it, yoga might be your thing.
Hmm.
um Walking, just walking 2 times a day, maybe your thing, but don't start with two if you haven't started one, because you're not going to do it. Just build a habit. And then sauna, it has recently climbed up there, because sauna is like a exercise mimicking tool, and so it mimics that same exercise effects you get. And so sauna, and it has a bunch of other effects because of releasing heat shock proteins, and so sauna's up there. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, like light was another one that was up there. And the it's even when they do light therapy, so like even if you're in the winter, what you can do is, it was 10,000 lux, 30 minutes soon after waking. They would do this
Mm.
study where they would use these lights, and I was actually looking into them. There's some on the internet, but they're LED, and I was trying to look for the fluorescent, the traditional lighting. I think it's called fluorescent, right? Like the traditional one
Yeah,
that's better for you.
yeah.
That's the one they used in the studies, the traditional one. Those are a little bit more expensive, but you can go and buy like blue light type style, as well. But yeah, light is for
Ideally,
circadian
just step
rhythm.
outside if you can.
Yeah, it's just hard. I mean, it's hard in the winter, man. When
Yeah,
you
for sure.
it's tough. Um, Speaking of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) was a
Yeah.
top one. Was a top one. Well researched. Weekly therapy. Um, it like one of the things I looked up and I wanted to help people understand about cognitive behavioral therapy is I'll read. I had AI like kind of like explain this and for the audience, and it says it's like becoming an investigator of your own mind. You learn to catch the automatic thoughts that shape your emotions, test whether they're actually true, and choose a better response instead of letting the thought control you. That's cognitive behavioral therapy. It's basically meditation, but a therapist is helping you do it, right?
Mm, okay. Yeah.
You know. Mm.
And the one caveat on all these things that we're naming is this is for probably like, middle of the road mental health, right? Like
Yeah.
uh severe depression and stuff. A lot of these, some people, some of the people that my wife are helping get through, can barely get out of bed or take showers, and are going through like extreme versions. And we had a friend, I remember posting on social media, and she was getting mad at people that tell her to exercise because she barely get out of bed the whole day and go to the bathroom, let alone right. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just one little caveat, but like, if you can start to, you don't have to do it all at once, even if you're in that severe part, right? Depression.
Yeah.
Just one little thing to try and inch your
Yeah.
way out of it.
And by the way, like SSRIs, antidepressants, they're effective uh, for some people in short term, um, and there's research to support that. It's just like the research uh, doesn't really last long term, and
Mhm.
people create a dependency, and then there's a bunch of other extraneous additional symptoms. But it could, if you are an extreme, there's research to support that. For anxiety, like there's research to support benzos or benzodiazepines as well.
Mm.
But again, there's trade-offs with that as well, um, where there's a short-term relief, but then it kind of pays like long-term. Like benzos is what Jordan Peterson actually had a bunch of issues on that caused all of his issues.
Mm.
Um,
Yep.
so, but he was on it for many years, and but yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other small things in here, like forest bathing,
Yeah. Oh
getting
yeah.
on the
I
forest,
had yeah I had that down as well.
and it was what was it, 120 minutes a week, um, but actually says like 30 to 120 minutes slow walk or sitting, no phone, sensory attention, ideally trees,
It started
water.
getting prescribed by in Japan in the 80s. I think it was. I think I read, was when it started. But to me, it makes sense when it goes back. One thing I want to mention that goes along with nutrition is the gut brain connection, right? You have like, 90% of serotonin is produced in your digestive tract, right? And then dopamine, I think, is related in that too. I don't know the percentage, but and then our vagus nerve is literally connected from the brain down to your stomach or somewhere down in the digestive tract. And then a lot of our issues these days is like gut dysbiosis, right?
Yeah,
Where like either through pesticides, which has shown a correlation to dysbiosis, or
yeah,
leaky, which leads to leaky gut, which is essentially our membranes of our gut are kind of separating, and then the toxins, whatever it is, pesticides, whatever else crap junk that we're eating, is getting seeps through there, causes inflammation, and then and it's also destroying our microbiota. There was a large scale systematic review that demonstrated that individuals diagnosed with anxiety and depression host significantly less diverse and more pro-inflammatory gut microbes than healthy controls, right?
yeah,
And it's just like, and then to me that relates with this forest bathing, because you're breathing your biome, what Zach Bush talks about. You breathe your biome by going out in nature and breathing different environments, and you're starting to breathe a new environment and bringing in different types of microbes and having a diverse, uh, amount of microbes within our body and on our outside of our body. There's a lot on our skin as well. But I
Yep.
think and to me, that's what I had a lot of issues with acne and rosacea for like 5 years, and it was very impactful on my mental health, extremely impactful on my mental health for a while. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, you know, it, I I did a lot of different diets, a lot of different change ups with my health and habits, and especially meditation and not looking in the mirror was very powerful for me. Some Joe Dispenza stuff of trying to speak into existence your new reality really helped for me.
Hmm.
Woo woo stuff for some folks, but that stuff really helped for me to really shift my mental health. And once my mental health got over that, uh, because a lot of times I was focusing on every little thing that I did was causing it. I was over analyzing everything. My mental health wasn't looking back, my mental health wasn't well. Because I was just like, oh, if I eat this, I do this. Sometimes, if you know what a nocebo effect was, it's where you like placebos, where you use your brain to prevent or cause something. Well, a nocebo is where you create something that wasn't even there. So, like, hey,
Yeah.
oh, if I eat this banana, I get acne or I get rosacea breakout. Where you next time you eat the banana, you're actually causing it, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even doing it. It's like
Yeah.
those are just some things that I dealt with on a smaller scale than what some serious stuff people deal with. But in my own little world, it was pretty serious, and until I got my gut right, which literally took me 5 years probably to get it, and a lot of alcohol drinking, a lot of different things that probably in bad health, nutrition, throughout my 20s led to some of that, and I paid for it. So yeah, going back to prevention, that really is very important.
And our brother Ryan went through the same rosacea issue as you, and went through a similar experience of troubleshooting all of it until it got fixed, and it took many years for him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, like, as well is you know depression, anxiety is a symptom. Uh, well, and that symptom is being triggered, but it's a long period that it built up. Now that symptoms arising, but the time it took for you to create that symptom is the time it's probably going to take for you to heal that symptom, or at least like half of it, right?
Oh
So if it
yeah.
took you 10 years to build it up, you can't expect to fix it, by tomorrow. And so it takes a long time, and that's probably what happened to me as well. Like, one of the best tools for me to improving that I went to immediately was in that first year, dude. I probably did like 5 fasts, long-term
Mm,
fasts. Like, there was one time where I did 2 long-term fasts within in back-to-back months,
mm,
and it was Tina was I remember Tina being like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I'm dealing with some shit here, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta fix this. And it helped, dude. Like,
yeah.
it helped tremendously.
I did the
It
same, man. I had probably three long-term fasts in a year, a couple of those years at
yeah.
least.
And I saw, like, after it, like, you would do that 5-day fast, water fast, and it would sincerely help. It would basically fix it. At least the disconnection of reality that I talked about in the top. But as you mentioned, like the gut, like if your gut is in dysbiosis, right,
Mhm.
then it's going to be a problem. But same with your nutrition. If you if you don't have enough vitamin D or vitamin A, like, there are essential vitamins and minerals. You can just Google that or put that in your AI tool of choice. Essential vitamins and nutrients. Like, if you don't have a good balance of those, you're going to create dysbiosis. Even like fat, like DHA and EPA, right? Like, if you have lower levels of those are essential minerals that you need. You're going to have psychological issues. Um, and so that's just one thing that I would encourage everyone, because even if you don't have mental health issues now, it could be in 20 years after, you've kept doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Yeah, one of the other things we do is cold showers. We've talked about it in other videos, but cold exposure is huge. Like I literally think it's impossible to be in a bad mood after a cold shower.
When you get like a 2.5 times dopamine hit, which is similar to cocaine, apparently, is what they say.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things was like meditation and really trying to like,
Yeah.
you know, talked about this in another video, but where you have your prefrontal cortex, which is your control center, and you have your amygdala, fight or flight, which is what's more than likely an issue here. The more long-term meditators, the more times you meditate per day and the more of the hours that you meditate in your life, the stronger that connection is. So the stronger the connection that you have over that emotional zone in your brain, the amygdala. So like it's many studies that very powerful. That helped me a ton. And then I think it just comes down to if you can get all of that, you really got to start examining. And I'm not even close to being finished left of like all your neuroses. There was a quote actually in the Conscious Parent book, ran where it was said, because we aren't taught by either our parents or society to access our inner stillness and find the roots of our pain and pleasure within ourselves, we are reactive to external circumstances. Since we didn't learn to simply observe our emotions, honor them, sit with them, and grow from them, our response to external stimuli become increasingly emotionally toxic, which is the root of our cyclones of drama. And
Yeah.
to me, it was a nice just summary. It's like that's where a lot of our neuroses and these crazy emotions are these built-in things from, like I was talking about, from your adolescence, or even before that. So you really got to try to observe, and mindfulness helps. Meditation helps.
Yeah. I had, funny enough, I had a quote similar to that around like external circumstances, and yeah, I mean, and that's the spiritual experience. It's like going inward, um, you know, to have true like spirituality, like you need to go out inward and be able to have a different relationship with yourself and figure out what that means, and that can help tremendously. It's not like, even when I was going through my issues, like you still needed certain tools, right? Like I had that pure OCD, and then the therapist was like, use this tool. And one of the things that I had was like, I was the thoughts were coming onto me, and one of the things she just gave me as a tool is like, well, just bring them on yourself. You bring them on yourself instead of letting them come at you, and then it changes the relationship of like these thoughts. And now it's like, oh, I'm and that helped.
Mm.
Like the first week doing that, and it helped tremendously.
One of the things we didn't mention that's very powerful is music that can
Yeah.
help you. Sometimes I forget that all the time, and then I'll start playing some music on kind of like a down emotional time for me, and then it just zaps me out of it, whether in the
Yeah.
car or at home. And I'm just like, damn. It's like I always forget how powerful music is. And
Yeah.
and it
Same here.
talked about even nostalgic music. I saw this post on Instagram the other day where it talked about how like it triggers something in us to remember like this nostalgic good times, and then it triggers differently than like new music a little bit. It triggers all these like, and almost like kind of zaps you in this previous time that you had maybe more positive moments and it right, and more freedom
Yeah.
or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah. Tina
pretty
shared that with
interesting.
me as well.
Uh,
Yeah, it was good. You remember the study from Stealing Fire with the
yeah.
Sonos speakers, where it's like just playing music in the house? They did a study where they played music in the house, and the family was like happier, less fights. The couple had more sex. Like it was just like a ton of different
Laughed
positive.
more, just like insane high percentages too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Just by playing music and around. Yeah, I
yeah.
love it.
That's
We can put
probably
an end on
a
it.
good way to end it.
Yeah, definitely. Good
Yeah,
luck, everybody.
yeah. Seek out a therapist if
Godspeed.
you really struggling. Later.
Yes,
Follow us, subscribe right here maybe or somewhere.
somewhere in there.
Later.